Hi. Hey, everyone. Welcome. My name's Mia Park, and this is my interview series. It's called In Response Interviews with Intriguing Internalizers. Um, I have been very blessed and excited to interview my friends and family from around the world about what's making them tick on the inside in response to this very intense place that we're living in now on the outside. It is June 10th, 2020. And we've got the pandemic of long overdue racial injustice protests and shifts in a positive direction with that inside of a global health pandemic, which would be COVID-19. So there's a lot to respond to. And today's guest, drum roll, all the way from Ontario, Canada, we have Sid Baker. Hi, Sid.
Hi.
Hi. Sid's coming in from Canada. And so Sid and I have known each other. We were trying to figure out if it was, we know it's over 20 years, probably some kind of 25 years. So we met in the mid 90s, late 90s, being in the rockabilly scene.
Yep.
So Sid was a fierce upright bass player playing with the Frantic Flat Tops, right? This rockabilly trio that was touring the country. And, I'm a drummer and I was in bands too. And this is just kind of our music scene, what we were doing. And that's when we met. And since then, Sid has relocated back to Canada and is a published author, a bagpipe player, bagpipe player, and
Pipe generally how it's referred to.
he's a bagpiper, and also is assisting the elderly, which he's very passionate about. So, is there anything else that you want people to know about you, Mr. Baker?
I don't think so. I no, I think that pretty much covers it all. I wouldn't know about fierce bass player. I would debate that, but fiercely bad, perhaps.
Fiercely bad. Well, you know what? Good enough for jazz in this case. Good enough to tour the country a million times, right? That's so. Okay, so Sid, so you tell us about what your outside world is like right now and whatever outside world means to you. And then if you could follow up with what's going on in your inside world in response to that, that would be lovely.
So I think, in all honesty, my outside world has not changed a great deal in that because I'm a frontline worker, I am still expected to go to work every day and have gone to work every day. And my particular facility was and continues to be extremely lucky. I don't know if you're aware, but in Ontario, and I suspect in the States too, but in Canada, in Ontario, maybe not Ontario specifically, but definitely in Canada, long-term care is what's really been hit the hardest by COVID-19. And it's decimating the population of long-term care. Nursing homes specifically, but that those facets of the population, sort of the weaker members of the population, the health diminished members of our population, are really getting bashed by it. Now, that being said, my particular nursing home has been extremely lucky in that we've had literally 3 cases of it. One staff member who recovered, one resident who sadly passed, and an agency member of staff who doesn't technically work for us was infected and recovered by it. Other than that, we have not been affected by it too much. Also, that being said, it's changed in that, my wife, who used to do all of the grocery shopping until recently, stayed home, and I started doing the shopping. Not that I'm saying that that's a bad thing. It's just a different thing. It was not the routine that we were used to. Now, today was the first time in 2 months, 3 months that she went back and did the grocery shopping, which she was excited about it, and then immediately pissed off again when she came home from doing grocery shopping. But it was sort of one step back to being normal.
Yeah.
So, in that regard, my life really externally didn't really change too much because I had to keep going to work. I suppose if I was in another profession, it would have affected me a little more profoundly in that I would have suddenly not had a job to go to, and the loss of income that comes with that, and so on and so on and so on. I know a lot of people that's happened to. So, I mean, and I know a ton of people in the arts that have been wiped out by this. And even something that you wouldn't think of, like I have a friend who's a librarian who is at serious risk and seriously fearing for losing her house because the libraries have been closed. No library, no income. I mean, it's not something that you think of immediately as something that was affected by it, but it's really that whole sort of avenue of the population.
So I'm curious about, I'm in Chicago. You're 45 minutes out of Toronto.
Yeah.
I did read that Toronto had protests, and they were protesting. And I'm wondering if in your small town where you are in Ontario, if there's any of that kind of racial justice activity going on there as well.
There was. We also had a march. I suppose by definition it was a protest, but by all accounts it was quite peaceful and quite organized. The police were there, as I understand it. I wanted to go. I did not feel it was appropriate for me to go by virtue of where I work.
Totally.
I simply
you don't have to. Everybody has to do whatever is right for them.
Yeah,
there's no shaming in the way that we're going to respond to this.
It did weigh heavily on my mind because I really felt it was important to go. But by the same token, my immediate sort of scope, it was more important for me to keep my residents safe and healthy and happy. So, we did have a march in Kitchener. I don't know the exact number of people that went. It was a lot for our sort of small community. It was a lot. It was peaceful where possible. People maintained social distancing. By and large, they all wore masks, from what I understand. So, all of this stuff is sort of trickling down, and I think that's important. I really think that's the only way that things are going to change, and things so desperately need to change. Like it's been this way for so long, and I think from my own standpoint, because you don't necessarily think you yourself are overtly a racist, and I suppose I'm not, but I have been raised in a system that's broken, that is slanted. I've been raised in a game that's rigged, and it's in the beginning, it's a very tough pill to swallow, to realize I have all of these sort of ingrained prejudices and stereotypes that just aren't true, and it's tough to change. It's almost like muscle memory. It's tough to change something that you have grown up believing, even though maybe even somewhere in your subconscious you know it to be wrong, but you've known it for so long you don't know any different. And it's a tough pill to swallow. And I know a lot of people, some of whom have unfriended me on Facebook, that refuse to admit their part in it. And we all sort of bear this burden. All of us who are not.
Go ahead.
All of us who, really, let's be honest, all of us who are white bear this burden. And I think we are, if we are not the linchpin, we are certainly a bigger catalyst for change than many of us are prepared to admit. But I think it's important that we all admit it. As tough as to admit.
Thank you very much for being so honest and vulnerable. As when we go by optics, you're like, a middle-aged white dude who's educated and has a job and a wife and a kid and a house. Like, you're kind of like that, middle class. You're kind of that typical of, I was going to say American, but you're not in America, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah, so I'm wondering.
I'm a white over 50 Scottish Canadian. You can't get any whiter than me.
Yeah, you're scratches. Yep, still white. Let me scratch this. Yeah. Yep, still white. Yeah. But what? Sorry, what?
That is tartan. So.
So again, thank you for being vulnerable and owning up in that way. I'm wondering, for your personal trajectory on talking about that, what does that positive change look like for you, Sid Baker?
So I have been watching a lot of things on YouTube and Netflix things like the 13th and speeches by Martin Luther King and speeches by Malcolm X. And while they all resonate with me, I don't think they resonate quite as much as James Baldwin is resonating with me.
Yeah.
And I think it's not to say that I hold the other two of lesser value. I don't. I think Baldwin resonates more with me because he himself was a writer,
Right.
and he has a gift for language that the other two don't. It's not to say that they don't have a gift for language. They do. It's a different gift for language, and it's one that resonates with me. And sort of what I have garnered from the things I have been watching of Baldwin is that we all sort of bear the responsibility as human beings to make the world a better place. And in the vein of race relations, the onus of that burden falls on people, on Caucasians, on white people. And I absolutely don't disagree with that. I agree with 100% that, again, the game is rigged. The table is tilted, and it's up to us, in conjunction with people of color and the Asian community and the Latin community, to level the table again, to make the playing field fair. And whatever sort of clues I get from the Black community or the Asian community of what I can do, because I hate to say I have friends who are this or friends who are that. It's an awful sounding
I have a Black friend. My Black friend says.
way to say things, but in that vein, when I communicate with them and ask them, what can I do to help you within my little sphere of the world, it's my duty to do my best to live up to that and to enact what they have asked me to do. And
so I know everything's changing and evolving. Is there like something specific you feel good about doing?
So I think, right now, in light of COVID and in light of my responsibilities to my job, I think that for me personally, I feel it's important to bring to light all of the things that are brought to me as being unfair, whether that's videos of police brutality, whether it's essays by Baldwin or articles by King or articles by Malcolm X. It's things that, and I can tell you there's a huge swath of my sort of friends from my youth that have no idea about any of this stuff. So if I can start to I guess brush away some of those cobwebs, for lack of a better term, by sharing these things on social media and by in bringing them up in discussions with my friends, then I think in some small way I'm kind of doing my part.
Oh, that's definitely part of it. Well, thanks for the awareness. And I'm not going to go down this lane, but I do want to say a lot of people, when you said that you're asking your friends, like, what can I do to help? That can be viewed as putting more responsibility on the person you're trying to help, to try to teach you how to help. So there's a whole idea of there saying, don't ask someone how to help. Do your research on your own how to help. I just got to put that out there. But I think that your heart's in a good place. I think people's hearts who do want to help, I do think their hearts are in a good place. Just got to say that.
In that vein, I think there are a lot of people in sort of in my position that while their intentions are good, they honestly may not know where to start. So, for lack of a better avenue, they do tend to ask their friends. And I agree that is sort of putting the burden on the other people. So it's important that you say, do your research, kind of figure it out on your own, sort of thing. Because it's not like there isn't a wealth of material out there.
Yeah, right. It's not that there isn't. Yeah. So we touched a little bit about writing, you as a writer, and I know you mentioned you name checked James Baldwin. Awesome. I'm wondering, from your writer's lens, how you're responding. Like, I guess it could be as maybe an artist, as a writer, or maybe as if you have a spiritual or philosophical response. Like, maybe, Kevin, can I ask you for a bird's eye view? Like the world's a dumpster fire right now. We've got the global
Yeah,
health
it
pandemic
is.
and the global warming and human beings and corporations getting billions and billions of dollars of money that should have been helping. This is in America, should have been helping people like who are not working or affected by COVID.
Correct.
Anyway, yeah, for artists, philosophical or spiritual response?
So I guess from an artist point of view, from if indeed I am an artist, I find that expression so very awkward when it comes to me.
Yeah, it's awkward. It's an awkward term. Yeah,
So
for everybody. Anyway.
yeah, I think that it's important to find, and I know this is kind of cliched and hackneyed, but it really is sort of true. It's important to find sort of the good things in this dumpster fire. It's important to find the phoenixes that rise from these ashes. And if it's something like the video of the woman saying, why would we want to protect the things that we're burning down? We don't own anything. We don't own
Right.
anything. That resonated so much with me and made such an impact on me. And to a degree, that's the good thing that came from it, is that it was like, wow, I never ever thought of things in that term before, in that context before. That why would they care? They don't own it. It's been kept away from the quote unquote minority communities for so long. Why would they care? So look, it's one of my, and I hate to say it like this, but one of my favorite lines of anything I've ever written was from the perspective of a child looking to an adult, looking for some explanation, some reason why that the world was not an altogether terrible place. And in this case, it happened to be holding a hand. So it's looking for those little things that sort of display that the world is not an altogether terrible place and that there is hope. You cannot always see it, but it is there. I mean, even Mr. Rogers said, look for the helpers, look for the people that
That's
are helping.
right.
And it's, in most instances, certainly nowadays, and certainly in light of all the things that are going on, it is not the traditional helpers that we see. It's not the traditional people that we see as helpers. It's from the unlikeliest of places. And that to me gives me hope. It know that there really is hope for the human condition. It just needs a little room to flower.
That's lovely, Sid. Thank you for sharing that. That's hopeful. And speaking of hopeful, I, by special request, have asked if you would sign us off with a song.
Okay. So everybody who knows bagpipes knows this.
Okay. Will you explain what you're playing, since that's not clearly a bagpipe?
It is a practice chanter. It's what you learn bagpipes on. And all of you bagpipe players know exactly what this is. Okay, hopefully this won't be too loud. Ready?
Okay. Oh my gosh, that was so great! That sounded fantastic. Thank you.
No problem.
What song did you play?
Scotland the Brave.
I thought so. So Sid was telling me that he's. Oh, you did? No, it was great. It was great. Sid was saying that he's actually doing bagpipe competitions over Zoom or online or something.
So some of them are live, and that's on MS Meeting or something. It's called MS Teams. And then there are other ones that you record it and then you send in the YouTube link.
And how are you faring in these bagpipe competitions?
I did very poorly, but in a category that I traditionally don't do very well in. So
You know, the world is big and vast, and I had not thought about uh, virtual bagpipe competitions during
Well,
COVID until about half an hour ago. So thank you for enlightening me. And
no,
we're at about time. Is there any last thing that you want to share with put out there in the universe right now, sir?
be nice to each other and wash your hands.
Spoken like a dad. Spoken like a dad, right?
And care worker.
And a healthcare worker. That's right. That's right. Well, thank you for your service of helping your seniors there where you are in Ontario, Canada. Thanks for the keeping the arts alive with your bagpiping and writing. And thanks for being a longtime friend and keeping in touch.
No worries.
Yeah. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Make sure to like my Facebook page, subscribe to my YouTube channel. The interviews just keep coming. We're going to meet some more cool people just like Sid. And take care. See y'all soon.